Hello and welcome to part 14 of the Johnny Blender 3 series. In this section we're going to go ahead and jump on the rig and upgrade it just a little bit, add a few more bells and whistles to make it perform a little bit better. And then we will apply it to our model so we can actually pose him around. Okay, now since we're going to be editing the left side, I want it to be perfectly perfectly the same on the right side. If that makes sense. So what we're going to do is the same thing we did when we built the rig. We'll just go ahead and delete everything here on the right side and fix everything we need to do on the left side, and then just copy it back over. Let's grab all those. Let's go ahead and, oops, one thing you got to do over here on armature options, make sure you uncheck x-axis mirror. Otherwise it's going to delete this and it's going to mirror over to the other side and therefore delete that side as well. So you make sure you turn that off. And then we delete those, pop back out, make sure everything's still copacetic with our constraints and everything. Everything's good. So we'll pop back in here. And first thing I'm going to do is add some hand bones here that go from the pinky to the wrist and the middle finger to the wrist, so that when we make a fist, we can actually get a more realistic, tight fist. You know, if we made the fist now, all the knuckles would still line up. And you know, if you look at your hand and make a fist, a tight fist, you can see that your knuckles kind of curve around. So we're gonna make that effect happen here on Johnny's hand. So the way we can get these lined up just right, so we'll grab that little section right there, and we're gonna Shift S, pop our cursor to the selected right there, and we're gonna Shift A now to just add a bone. There we go. And let's go ahead and name it hand underscore pinky. Actually, I guess we weren't naming these pinky, index finger, all that. This was, let's see. There we go. Had the wrong section there. Let's go ahead and collapse that so I don't do it again. Finger 3, and then this is finger 2. So we'll go grab that bone and say finger, actually hand underscore finger 3 dot L. There we go. And now to get it lined up here, you could grab it and kind of move it down and, you know, go around in a 3D viewport, try to get lined up properly. Or there's an easier way. Just put your mouse cursor there, Shift S, cursor to selected there, grab the tip of that, Shift S, selection to cursor. Boom, knocks it right there, perfectly lined up. Now let's Control Shift S to get it scaled down a little bit, about like so. And now I'd like to line it up perfectly with the rest of the finger, so let's turn on our axes. We're still in the Object Data tabs. Come down here to Display, turn on Axes, and we can see it's almost lined up. So just Control R to get that lined up the way it needs to go. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing for our middle finger. I'm actually just going to grab that bone, Shift D, since it's pretty well set up the way it needs to be already. Just need to change this to finger 2. Go delete those 3 zeros. And put our 3D cursor right back there, cursor to selected, grab the tip, selection to cursor, and then grab this tip of the middle finger, cursor to selected, and then grab the tip of that new bone, Shift S, selection to cursor. And there we go. And the roll is, it changed a little bit when we rotated it around, so we'll need to fix that up a little bit. So about right there. Okay, so now we need to tell these fingers to be attached to there, so grab the base of the pinky, Shift select the new hand bone there, Control P, and connected. Same thing on the middle finger, there, Control P, and connected. Okay, now, one thing we need to do before we really go any further, go ahead and turn our axes off so it's not so cluttered, the scene, is when we add the rig to our mesh, it's going to take every bone. Right now it's going to take every bone and make it deform the model somehow. But we don't need that, really. Some of these bones don't need to deform anything. So we need to tell them to not deform. So let's grab our IK hand here and come down here. Actually go to our bone setting right there. And go down to deform right there and uncheck that. So now when we apply this rig to our model, it's going to basically ignore this bone here. So we can probably tell it to do the same thing with the... I was going to say we could do the same thing with the hand bone, but then we'll have an empty space here between the index finger and the wrist. So we'll just go ahead and leave that there. Okay, so now let's just make it a little bit smaller. Let's tab in here and Control S. There we go. Make it real small. because we don't. Yeah, no, we really don't even need to worry if it's there or not. So I tell you what, let's do. Let's put it on its own layer, its own bone layer over here. Just get it out of our way. So we'll just go M to bring up our move to layer, and let's just put it down here on this bottom left. There we go. And if you want to see it again, you just come over here to your object data, and you can see that there's now a dot there. And remembering the layer hierarchy, tab out of edit mode here. Layer hierarchy here. Did I explain that yet? I don't recall if I did. Basically, if you got an orange dot, that means you have something selected in that layer. So, for example, if I grab Johnny here, you can see, and I move it, hit M to move to another layer. Let's put it way over there just for now. You can see it, and that makes an orange dot over there. And since it's still selected, even though it's on another layer and we can't see it, there's still an orange dot there. Now, if I click on there, you can see that it's selected. And if I deselect it, it still shows that it's orange, but we're also in that layer now. But if we go back to this layer, well, and select something else, there we go. The orange dot now shows this current layer. So, if that makes sense, let's go back here. Let's go ahead and move him back to the original layer. There we go, back there. Okay, the bone layers are independent of the scene layers. They have their own setting over here, but it acts the same way. So, okay, so that hand bone is now in that layer right there by itself. So we can pretty much put any bone that we don't really need to animate at all or touch really ever while we're animating. For example, the forearm, we don't really need to touch that either. Let's go ahead and move that there as well. There we go. Now if we go in here, you can see the hand bone and the forearm. So I put the forearm there because we don't really need to touch it when we're animating, so it's just a good idea just to keep it out of sight, out of mind. We don't accidentally touch it and move it around, put keyframes on it when we don't need to when we're animating. So back to this layer. Let's go ahead and make our finger bones a little bit skinnier so we can see our hand a little bit better. So select all those, Control Alt S, scale it down to about like so. I'll tab out. And now, when I curve this bone around, like so, I want this bone to kind of follow it along just like these bones do. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that bone first, or actually grab the pinky hand bone first, and then shift select that one, Control Shift C, copy rotation, and we'll do the same thing like we did on those other fingers. Just go to our bone constraints and say local space offset, and we don't want it to follow it 100% because then it just wouldn't look natural. So let's make that really, let's put it at 0.3 feet, 1/3. So you can see now if we rotate our fingers and then make a tight fist, get a nice curving around of our hand bone. So there we go. Okay, so let's clear all those out, and now let's go down to our leg bones. There's some work we need to do down here. For example, if you grab this and move it up, your knee doesn't always move the way it should. Like your foot is flat, but your knee is backwards, or you come up here, you can move it around and it goes backwards. It's just not working the way it needs to. So what we need to do is add a bone in here so the knee knows to point at that bone. So let's go to side view and tab into edit mode. Let's go ahead and put our 3D cursor right there on the knee itself. Shift S, cursor to selected. We'll go and Shift A, add a new bone, and just move that straight out on the Y-axis. Actually, you know what? Let's Control Z, undo that, because our leg is rotated some. Let's go ahead and rotate the bone till it matches up, about like so. Okay, and then we're going to move it on the Y-axis, but we're going to move it on its normal axis, on its local normal axis rather than the global. So we'll go G to move it, and then Y to move it on the Y-axis, and then Y again to move it on its normal axis. So we'll move it straight up there. Let's move it out a little bit more. Okay, so now let's grab the top of it, make it a little smaller, and move it on its Y-axis a little bit further out. Okay. The further out it has, the more control you, or the further out it is, the more control you have over which direction the knee is pointing. So let's go ahead and name this knee.L. There we go. We'll tab out of edit mode, grab our shin bone here, and go to our, let's see, yeah, okay, here we are, pole target. And that's basically going to tell it which direction to point at. So we'll click in here and say knee dot, actually we have to specify that it's in the armature. It's an armature bone, so JB3 armature, and then knee.L, and there we go. He's like, oh, it points the wrong way. Well, this is true, it does point the wrong way, but we can fix that right here in our pole angle. So set that to 90 and hit enter, and now the knee is going to point at our knee bone there. So if we move the knee up here and it starts to point in a weird way, we can move the knee bone and get it to point right again. Now, it can remain independent like it is now, or we can make things a little easier by parenting the knee bone to the foot bone. So just grab those two, Control P, keep the offset, tab out. Let's go ahead and grab everything and Alt G, Alt R to clear everything out. And now you can see when we move the knee and move the foot, the knee follows, and if we rotate it around, it points in the direction that our foot is pointing. So it's a lot more natural this way. So you can sit cross-legged style if you want to, and then adjust as you need. So nice, quick, easy way to get that rig fixed up a little bit better. Okay, so I think that'll probably do it for our advanced rig. It's not really that advanced, but has a few bells and whistles that are kind of cool. So now we need to copy it over to the right side, but since we added some bones to the other layer, we need to turn those on so we make sure we grab those as we're copying it. So go back to our object data, hold down Shift, and select that layer, and it selects both of those layers. So let's tab into edit mode, select all of these bones here on the left side, including our new knee bone. There we go. Is that everything? Yes, it is. Okay, now let's put our 3D cursor right here in the middle somewhere, about like so. And we're going to Shift D. Okay, rotate around our 3D cursor and armature mirror on the X global. There we go. I'm going to click to lock it in, and then we'll go armature, flip names, and it renames them. Okay, and now we need to get the roll angle back correct, so select all these guys again. Okay, go ahead and turn on X-axis mirror, Control R, rotates the mirror. So there we go. Let's go ahead and save this while we're at it. And oh yeah, remember we turned the deformations off, the deform off of the IK hands. We need to do that also down here on the feet and also the knee bones. And we could have done it before we copied it over, but we can still do it now. So just go to our bone settings, go ahead and click deform, or unclick it, I guess. And then we don't want that, so turn that off, and we don't want those, so turn those off, and there. Okay, one more place, and that is our hips. Now this, we want the main hip to be the one that deforms, and this one just to control the one that deforms, so this one does not need to deform also, so just turn that one off as well. Okay, I think he's ready to rock and roll, so let's save that. And now we're going to grab our model, and then, okay, I forgot we had multiple pieces to our mesh here. So we'll grab Johnny himself first, and then we'll shift select one of the bones. Doesn't matter which one you do, just one of them, and Control P. And we're going to set the parent to the armature deform with automatic weights. So go ahead and select that. And keep in mind, if you screw something up and then you're like, well, I need to apply the armature again, every time you do that, every time you Control P, grab our model here, go to our modifiers, it adds a new armature on there. So if I tried it again, like something messed up, let me try it again. Something messed up, let me try it again. Grab your model, see it added a new armature modifier to each one. And every time you do that, it basically does just that. It adds another modifier. So it kind of, the first time you do it, it doubles the movement. Second time it triples. So if we move this around, you can see we're just barely moving our head bone, but the model is moving a lot more. So make sure you only do that one time, and if you do it multiple times, just go ahead and get rid of those last ones. Okay, so now you can see it follows around a lot better. Now we'll have to adjust some of the weights here because, as you can see, especially on the chin, it's probably picking up some of the chest bone. because the automatic weight is not 100% perfect. But before we jump into that, let's go ahead and do the jacket as well. Control P, automatic weights, and the gloves. They're all one model, both of them, so we just got to do the one. Control P, automatic weights. Okay. So let's jump in here and tell you what, let's hide the jacket and the gloves for now. Let's grab them and hit H. And let's grab Johnny himself and go to weight paint. And now he's turned blue, and that just means we're in weight paint mode. And whichever bone you select, you right click on it, it'll change colors. And red means it's definitely applied to that bone. Blue means it's not applied to that bone. So as it fades out to green, that means it's gradually fading away from that bone. So actually we need every vertex in the headpiece to be part of this, to be applied to our head bone here. So let's hit our tab button to go into edit mode, and let's just select a few of these vertices here on the head, and then Control L. Need to get those eyebrows and eyelids also, and the teeth. Make sure you get everything, and then Control L, just make sure everything's selected. So in here, looks like everything's good. And we'll go to our object data and go to our vertex group, head, looks like it's already selected. We'll just hit assign. And since our weight right here is set to 1.0, that means it's 100%. Tab out, you can see it's all red now. So we can actually rotate our head while we're in weight paint mode, and you can see that the chin, it still kind of moves a little weirdly. So let's grab our chest bone here, and it's not applied to the head at all. Maybe the neck bone is. Yeah, there we go. So now we still tab into edit mode. We still have all of the vertices in our head selected. We can check our neck and say remove those vertices from this vertex group. So now it's no longer on there, and our head should have no problems moving around. And also we're still moving in 3D around the 3D cursor. So tab out, go to medium point. There we go. So now it rotates as it needs to. I know what you're saying, the eyeballs aren't moving. Well, I'm going to save that for later because it's going to be something kind of cool. We're going to mess with a deform modifier, and those need to act separately for that. So anyways, we'll get to that after a while. In the meantime, let's go ahead and make sure everything else is working properly. Now, it doesn't have to be solid red. As long as it's got a little bit of color to it. We probably don't need the torso to be modified at all by the arms. So let's select the torso there, Control L, and say upper arm. Go ahead and remove the vertices from there, and we'll say upper arm right. Go and scroll through here and find that. There it is. Go and remove from there. Okay, so now you can see it does not apply it at all. But we do have some blank spots there. So let's go ahead and actually paint now. And the way you do that is basically like texture painting. You just come over here and get add, where you add to that vertex group, blur, where you kind of fade off depending on how many vertices you have in your model. Brush kind of acts just like add, darken. These I don't think really apply too much when you're weight painting. And you can subtract. So right now we're going to go add, and let's make our brush a little bit bigger. There we go. And just gently come in here and just paint on those shoulders. And one thing that'll save you some time here is you can also do mirror, X mirror on weight painting. So come in here and get that all set. Now you gotta watch where your brush goes, because see, we hit the corner of his chin. So we're gonna have to go back in here and select all the head vertices again, and say remove from the chest. There we go. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and select both arms, because I know we brushed over them a little bit, and say remove those from the chest as well. Okay, so now we're good to go. Probably need to do the same thing for the thighs. Select the torso, Control L, and let's find our thigh bone. Right there is one. Go and remove from, oops, select it first. There we go. Remove, and thigh right, remove. Okay. So now it's all good. It's all good. And the hips, they don't look like they're deforming the thighs at all. Nope, looks all good. Okay. So that's probably working pretty well. Let's see how the fingers are going to act. Good, good. Good, 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 good. Looks like I did those pretty well. Is that the actual hand? Let's see. Hand.L. So we need to come in here and get some more of this part here. Okay. And then the pinky bone get there, and then the ring finger, or the middle finger, should get a little more here on the top as well. So just gently brush that on there. Okay. Now, make sure the legs are all good. I think so. Let's go ahead and round off that heel there. The foot bone there. Okay. Yeah. All right. I think we're all set. Let's come out of weight paint mode and let's just throw him into a pose just to see how well everything works. Ah, we need to go back in here. And now in our edit mode, X-axis mirror, good, it's on. Grab both of those new hand bones and go ahead and shift select that original hand bone there in the middle and Control P. Make sure you keep the offset. So we'll tab back out now, and now everything should move. There we go. Okay. And it should have copied it over when we, since we had the mirror turned on, it should have done it over here as well. Yes. Okay. So let's put our hands down at the side just to test. Make sure everything's deforming nicely. Go ahead and curl our fingers around. Good. Yeah, that's looking pretty nice. Grab that pinky bone. So now you can kind of see what I was talking about when you curl your fist around like that. Okay. Now I think I'm seeing some weird formations here in the forearm. So let's turn that bone layer off. Yeah, it's kind of getting a twisted look. So we'll see if that helps if when we go to... actually, one thing that can help is we pop our armature up above our subsurf modifier. Boom. And I don't know how much it helped, but it certainly smoothed it out. So let's work with this a little bit. One thing we can do is tab in there. Let's go ahead and turn that layer back on, actually. Grab that bone. And if we need it to be connected to the upper arm, but it doesn't need to be, I mean, it needs to be parented to the upper arm, but it doesn't need to be connected. So if we turn that off, it sometimes helps with some of that weirdness around the forearm. But we can see it's still a little bit there. Now one technique I found to kind of smooth some of that out is on that bone, we have 5 segments. If we keep increasing those, sometimes it helps to get that weirdness out of there, but it doesn't look like it's going to help this time. No. So let's see if we decrease. Sometimes it's just nope. So let's put it back to the original 5. That'll be fine. And maybe we got some weight painting issues that we need to work on. So let's try that. Let's grab our model, go to weight paint, and everything looks good. Everything looks good there. So maybe hand bones going up there somehow. No. Maybe the well, I guess it just lies in the actual mesh itself. So let's come out of weight paint mode, and one thing we can do to get the armature kind of out of our way so it's not in our way is just to grab a piece of it, go to object mode, and we'll go ahead and move it to its own layer as well. I like to put it down here in the bottom left. So grab our model here. We can kind of see things a little bit better. Tab into edit mode, and yeah, tell you what we can probably do is add a couple of loops there, and we need to make sure it's going to be even on both sides, so we'll just add a couple of, let's add 3 like so, and then we'll go over here and add 3. Boom. And why not? Let's add a couple here on the upper arm as well. Boom. And while we're at it, maybe a couple down here. There. 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 And why not? 3 up here. 3 there. Okay. Now remember how I'm doing that is Control R and then scrolling my mouse wheel. Okay, so now we'll tab out. And let's turn on our rig layer. Grab our rig and go back to pose mode. And see how well that works now. And we'll turn that layer back off so we can see it. Still getting the twisted effect. So let's see what it looks like when we go to subdivision of 2. Well, that looks better. So yeah, maybe it's just because we were looking at it with the subdivision of 1. So if we actually turned it off, and then maybe we can try the technique I was going to try earlier. Just give this one some more segments. And then let's make it an even 10. And let's grab this one, make it an even 10. Grab Johnny, turn that layer off again, and turn him back to 2 subdivisions. And yeah, that looks alright now. Okay, so yeah, I think that'll work. Okay, so we're running over time yet again. Well, again, like in part 13, I would like to finish this segment before I go to the next one. So let's go ahead and unhide the clothing items. And it looks like they already have that. Oh yeah, I already applied it, but I didn't mess with the weight paints yet. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and hide Johnny himself. And what? Okay. Did we add the shell? I guess we did. I guess we added this when we added the shell to our jacket here. It created the inside, which is not real desirable at this point. So I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's grab that outer ring, and does it have a seam on it already? Mark seam, probably. But let's grab one of these faces in here, Control L, and it's going to select all of the inside. Let's go ahead and just delete that. Do the same thing on the other sleeve. Let's grab one of these faces on the inside, Control L, and just go ahead and delete those. Okay, so now, yeah, it looks a lot better. Okay. So we'll go in here and go to weight paint and turn a layer of our rig. Go to here and just select all of that. Just paint it in there, and some of that ugliness will disappear. Go to our back view, Control 1, paint all that. Grab that guy, paint across there, and this guy, paint across there. Get that button on there. There we go. Okay. So, you know what? Running way over time. I'm going to go ahead and call this part done, and we'll come back in part 15 and finish up getting the jacket and the gloves and everything painted properly. So that'll be all for part 14, and I'll see you in part 15.